Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Tropics Talk. Plenty to talk about out there this morning, so let's get right to it. There's two areas that the Hurricane Center is watching. One that's nearing the Lesser Antilles here this morning, and then another that's about a couple hundred miles off to the east and northeast of that first one. As we take off those circles and the text and zoom in, you can see one is looking much healthier than the other. In fact, it's tough to pick out where that easternmost system even is. It's right about here. In fact, I'm seeing more of a clockwise swirl in the satellite presentation this morning than that defined low-level swirl. Yeah, that one looks to be fading, and the Hurricane Center continues to drop the development chances with that in the last couple of updates they've had. Meanwhile, this one looking much more healthy. You see the areas of orange and red. That's heavy thunderstorm activity flaring around it. You're seeing a little bit of rotation, that counterclockwise swirl marking that low pressure area coming together. And yeah, this one of the two looks to be the one that has a much better chance to become a tropical depression or tropical storm. So let's get that first one out of the way. So last we'll talk about it. Only a 20% chance now from the Hurricane Center this is able to become a depression, perhaps as it slides to the west and southwest. It tries to get its act back together once again. But the conditions turn hostile going forward, so in all likelihood, not going to be an issue going forward. Perhaps bring in some gusty rain later on this week to the Lesser Antilles, and that's after they're already going to get that burst of rainfall in the next 24, 48 hours from this one, which now has a high chance for development from the Hurricane Center. They've upped their development chances to 70%. This is going to move in a general west-northwesterly direction across the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward Islands, again in the near term, and then headed in the general direction of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and Cuba, bringing wind, bringing rainfall. Now, there's some questions in the near-term intensity, the near-term track, but in all likelihood, again, some gusty rain for Puerto Rico and Hispaniola at the very least. Then the question is the longer range. What does this mean for us here in southwest Florida? And I think it does likely bring us, at the very least, some rainfall. You look at what the model plots are saying, and there's pretty decent agreement that this goes, again, into the Caribbean, right across Hispaniola, potentially even across Cuba. Now, we talk about this each and every time we have a system taking a track like this across the Greater Antilles or the Northern Caribbean islands. There's some very high terrain there. And a weak tropical disturbance this is likely to be as it moves westward. Not going to likely fare very well against those high elevations. That and a number of other factors, which we'll talk about in just a second, leading to most models showing this staying very weak, if the models are even showing it coming together at all. Each line is a different model forecast. Most keep this below tropical storm intensity. In fact, going forward here, just a little bit of a ramp up in the near term from now through about 48 hours. That does include that purple line, which is one we watch a little more closely. That's the HWRF, one of the high-res forecast models that's tuned exactly to be able to forecast hurricanes. But even that one shows it ramping down. Again, that would be with those land interactions. And there's more at play here, too. So the disturbance right about here, this is water vapor satellite, but you see to the north, so the disturbance right about there, you see to the north, all this orange, that's some very dry air in its way off to the north. So as this tries to sort of expand and come together, yes, it's in that pocket of moisture right now, but wouldn't be surprised to see it drag in some of that dry air at times as that circulation becomes a little more pronounced, and that should have a deterring force on it. Along with that, as I try to find the graphic here, wind shear. It's in a pocket of low wind shear right now. Again, right about there, but I do think the shear is going to stay pretty high across the Caribbean as it moves westward. That will help to weaken it. And then again, those high elevations, especially Hispaniola, if it moves right over the heart of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, as most models suggest, there's 10,000-foot mountain peaks there. If something is weak and disorganized before it hits the island of Hispaniola, the higher terrain, it's likely to tear that apart. So that's why when you look at the different models, again, most show this staying weak. I'm showing you here the GFS and the European forecast models also showing it staying weak. These are isobars or lines of equal pressure. What you would be seeing if the models were suggesting a strong tropical storm, even hurricane, sort of a bullseye, a number of little circles showing you that deepening pressure. There is a little circle on the European. The morning run showed this coming in, a weak low pressure area, perhaps a depression into South Florida, whereas the GFS doesn't even close off an isobar at this time. Let's go through that actual run of the GFS forecast model. This is by Friday evening, and you can't even make out in the wind profile where the center of this is. This is just on the GFS because it drags it across Hispaniola Thursday and then right over Cuba on Friday. It keeps it open, weak, disorganized. But still moves it northward, and then at the same point in time, there's going to be a broad upper level disturbance diving into the Gulf of Mexico. So what sort of goes on here on this model is the two sort of combine to become a very stormy pattern for parts of Florida. This is going through Monday into Tuesday. It keeps things pretty stormy here over a couple of days. It wouldn't be too dissimilar from what many spots just saw last week when there was that stalled out front, that broad upper low that just kept rounds of rainfall coming in. So there is the potential, even if this isn't able to come together for a couple of stormy days at the very least for Florida, the chances for increased rainfall, something we'll be watching for going forward. I think, though, at this point in time, the idea that this is some highly organized tropical storm, hurricane, that's very unlikely. But again, when you get systems like this, when you get into August, you head to the heart of hurricane season, you have to watch things closely, as of course we will be. So takeaways here, yeah, there's two areas to watch. 94L, the westernmost system, is the one we'll be watching more closely, has a high chance for development per the Hurricane Center. If it takes a name, that name would be Fred. It first moves across the Caribbean and then heads in the general direction of the Florida Straits, and it will have the opportunity to bring us some, at the very least, increased rain chances going through the weekend into next week. So stick with us here at ABC7. We'll have frequent updates on this on air and online. That begins this evening. Chief Meteorologist John Patrick, he will have the latest from the Hurricane Center on that system coming up on ABC 7 News at 6, 7, and 11 tonight. Till next time, meteorologist Jim Dickey. Have a good one.